Today, you're joining us for We Rise to Our Systems, a live panel powered by Plug and Play. I'm Jas Kirk, and I'm so honored to be co-hosting this conversation alongside Rio Walker and Plug and Play.
Here at Plug and Play, our mission is to drive innovation by connecting the world's best startups with the world's largest corporations. Through our corporate strategy, we provide our innovation platform to startups for no fee and no equity. As we aim to drive business development for founders, we ultimately aim to be a resource for startup companies across the world.
Together, we're diving deep into the connection between mental wellness and sustainable entrepreneurship. This panel features two incredible leaders, Michael Leto and Mark Clayton, who are not only building powerful legacies, but doing so with intention, heart, and vision. Whether you're a founder, a creative, or someone navigating the weight of big dreams, this space is for you. So settle in, let's rise, let's reflect, and let's begin. When I connected with Plug and Play, I know everyone here just loves everything that Plug and Play is doing and how they really support startups and entrepreneurs. But the one question I plagued Rio with last year was, what are you guys doing for individuals' mental health and well-being? And he said, well, what do you want to do, Jas? And that really did open this conversation. So as Plug and Play is a huge organization, this really is about our systems and us going inwardly. So I would love for Rio to kind of share what that meant for Plug and Play to join this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Jas, and good morning, everyone. Thanks again for coming out here. It means a lot to have you here with us. We're excited to host you in our Innovation Hub that will be officially opening on Monday, so really looking forward to that. And as Jas mentioned, this is important to us because we are here to be a pillar in the community and provide resources to founders, startups, entrepreneurs, whatever it looks like. And that typically means, hey, let's help with business development. Let's connect you with this. Let's get you these tools to help you build your business. But what was that missing piece? And Jas hit it on the head. It was that mental health, making sure that we're prioritizing that. Because in my role as program manager for Plug and Play, I'm always helping founders and always seeing what they're going through. And a lot of times I can say, oh man, let's just take a break. Let's not talk X's and O's. Let's not talk strategy. How are you today? How are you doing? So it's really important for us to just continue providing all types of resources for whoever may want to participate in them. So again, thank y'all so much for coming out.
And thank you, Rio. And like I said, this conversation is just the start. It really does begin to open the door so that you can hold capacity for yourself and know that organizations also hold that same capacity versus hiding and being like, I'm fine. I'm really fine all day long when we know we're not. So thank you so much, Rio.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And so before we dive into this discussion, I really want to set the tone by reflecting on a powerful concept of the mind. We often hear that we rise to the level of our systems, and this is so true when it comes to mental wellness. The mind is like any system. It is designed to process inputs and create outputs. But the key is that the mind doesn't operate on autopilot. It is a system that needs to be trained deliberately and consistently. If your mind were a business, how profitable would it be? Today, as we talk with Michael Leto and Mark Clayton, I really want you guys to think about, if your mind were a system, how profitable would it truly be? That is a personal question you will answer for yourself, but you can also get help with that question. You can get curious with that question, and you have commonality in this room with that question. So the first person that I'm going to bring to our couch to have a comfortable conversation with me is Michael Leto. And when I think about what it means to build something sustainable, not just in business, but in life, I think about legacy. I think about people who aren't just creating success for themselves, but shifting entire ecosystems to support the wellness of others. Michael Leto is one of those people. As partner and CEO of Rise Family Office, Michael is reshaping how we think about wealth, entrepreneurship, and athlete empowerment. His work speaks directly to the intersection of mental wellness and sustainable growth. mentoring athletes not just to manage their money, but to lead, heal, generation patterns, and to build with vision. His background as a 2-time All-American and his deep roots in mentorship remind me that the most powerful builders are often those who felt pressure, expectation, and transition and turned it into purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Michael Leto. Thank you for being here today, Michael. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Michael, just a quick reason, please share with us, why did you say yes to coming here today?
Oh, well, you support me with coming to my Athlete Enterprise Symposium, and we had a great encounter on your podcast. And so we had good vibes, good energy, and I felt like it was a really good opportunity. And I office here at Plug and Play, so I'm a partner. So my family office, I'm here all the time now. So I love Plug and Play. I love what they're doing, and I firmly believe in the discussion that we're having today.
Well, awesome. Thank you for joining us. And guys, when I say I didn't even get the question out quick, like the full question out before Michael was like, absolutely, I'll be there. I will speak. So thank you for joining us. Absolutely. The next individual we have is Mark Clayton. And I really want to share, there is something really powerful about people who can reinvent themselves. Not just because they had to, but they chose to evolve. And when it comes to Mark, I think he really does represent that for making unforgettable plays in the NFL to building live audio from the ground up. Mark embodies what it means to lead with resilience, curiosity, and deep commitment to growth. What I admire most is how his journey reflects one of intentional reinvention, using what once challenged him as fuel to create something impactful, innovative, and sustainable. Whether it's on the field or in business or at home with his family, Mark's life is a living example of how purpose evolves. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mark Clayton. Thank you. So, Mark, my same question to you. What made you say, and once again, y'all, undeniable, yes, immediately yes. And I feel like when it comes to certain asks, especially for someone to become vulnerable and share about their mental health, mental wellness, challenges, or obstacles they face in business, I've sometimes felt like you sometimes have to sell people on please come do this. But both of these guys were like, no, it's a yes. When can you put it on my calendar? I was like, dang, I didn't even have to pitch anything. So, Mark, can you share why this was a yes for you?
One, because David Vibora hit me up. When David Vibora hits you up, you answer, and he was like, "Man, you got to talk to Jas. She's doing this mental health deal, and I think you'll be great for it." And on top of that, so my mother, she's a mental health advocate and worked with a couple different groups to really bring into effect and knowledge just the value of addressing the mind. And then my family, I think is extremely important for them to have a great idea of how to process, those inputs and outputs as we deal with life from all different, areas.
Yeah, it really truly is about the lifestyle. This is your lifestyle. And I always say mental wellness because I really do look at it as an ecosystem. It is your mental, physical, spiritual, financial, social health. Your mental health is there's so many layers to it. So once you power the mind and are intentional with that, everything else begins to flow. And so, Mark, I'm going to start my first question with you. Your journey from the NFL to tech entrepreneurship with Live Audio exemplifies the power of mental wellness in both high performance and innovation. Can you speak to the importance of mental resilience in your transition? And specifically, what mental resilience is, because I feel like mental fortitude everyone talks about, but what about the discomfort of that? What about the true challenge that's in there that says keep going, and then everyone around you is like, yeah, you just have to be mentally resilient, and you're like, that's not working.
Yes. So transition is not easy. And much like many other NFL players, transition is not on your schedule. I was injured my 5th year in the league, and it subsequently became the reason why I retired. And so in that space, I was, working on this concept. It was just a pet project, which was the headphone deal. But there was a divorce. There was the reality of the NFL not, being a thing anymore. So life was going to be drastically different. There was a really dark period of coming to grips with that and learning that for what I've done for pretty much all my life since I was 5 years old is going to have to change. I needed to figure out this new language that was on the other side of your entire life, kind of day, schedule, year, being put together for you, no longer being the case. And now it's on you to figure out what that life was like. Thank you. I talk low like Jas.
Yeah.
And so it's on you to figure out what that life was like. I was fortunate to, kind of have some brothers that pointed me to a counselor that was awesome. And then the NFL had a deal where, essentially for me, for the first time, I was able to spend, it was about 4 or 5 weeks in with counselors processing who I was and what life looked like. As I'm learning who I am, and a huge part of that was breaking down and getting to being honest about my weaknesses, what I am not, where I struggle most, why I struggle most, and getting kind of down to the floor of the weaknesses of who I was a big part of being able to kind of come out and be real with myself and community and people and everybody else that was around me.
But it also sounds like you gave yourself time in this moment. It was like when you said you took like 4 to 5 weeks, and this is the first time like you're getting to explore yourself. And that's something that I wish to share with everybody. Everything is moving so fast that sometimes the one thing, I have friends who are like, Jas, what do you do in this moment? I'm like, I just breathe. And it sounds like when you're stressed, you're like, I don't want to hear just breathe. But it really is that moment for you to say, okay, if I can take one breath, now what do I need next? 1 minute, 10 minutes. If I can assess this situation, maybe I really do need 5 days, 10 days, 4 weeks, so that I can understand who I'm becoming. And it also sounded like you got curious. I'm no longer this version. I don't speak this language anymore. I don't wish to pick up this pattern anymore for what's next. How do I get curious with myself and give myself grace? And as you shared that, Michael, we've had plenty of conversations. And if you guys don't follow Michael Leto, he speaks a lot about the vision. And so, Michael, I would love for you to kind of share, when it comes to that mental resilience, how can you see the vision in that moment when it is dark, it is tough, it is challenging?
Yeah, I think I think when you're going through that dark moment you're referring to, and we're going to go through those and those challenges that we go through in life, I really think it comes down to purpose, right? So like, I think one of my favorite movies, I always say this, people that are close to me know this, I talk about Walking West. So it's always like, hey, I'm walking west. And if everybody's ever seen the movie Book of Eli,
Yes.
It's one of my favorite movies with Denzel. And he was blind in that movie, right? Walking west, trying to get the Bible to where he was going. And he was tearing up anything in his way, to get there. So I firmly believe that when you know what you're called to do and you know your assignment and you know why you're doing something, you're going to be able to push through just about anything. But if it's done for clout, recognition, or income, it's not going to sustain. You know, when you go through a dark moment, you're gonna quit because it doesn't have real substance to it. You know, so for me, I firmly believe, for me personally, that I'm on an assignment that I've been called to, and so it don't really matter what's in front. I'm walking west, whether if I'm walking by myself or I'm walking with a tribe of people. I'm still walking.
I love that. So as you were sharing, I really thought of this question of like, but what happens when people don't have that foundational sustainability and they really are focused on the attention, the money, what this will get them, and they think that's their purpose, right? And they're like, yeah, this is going really well. But then you have to take either that mask off and go deeper. How do you encourage your athletes, the individuals you work with, your teams? And Mark, I extend this question to you as well, to peel off the layers.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. You're good at the questions. I think, and you know, it's funny because I'm going through, out of the 13 NFL clients I work with, I got 3 of them right now that are really going through, maybe 3 or 4, really going through mental health challenges or, you know, life challenges. And the investing is a very easy thing.
Yeah.
We got that down packed. I ain't gonna say we got down packed, but we're pretty good.
You got a system for that.
Yeah, we got a system.
Tried and true.
We got systems. We got results. You know, proven processes. We're good there. It's getting through, you know, how they're managing life, the mental health, the challenges to even get to doing those fundamental things. And one of the things that I like to implement when I'm working with people is we always say go 5 whys deep. You know,
yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that or we talked about that yet.
Yeah.
But it's the 5 whys deep. Like when someone wants to do something, I'm going to ask you why. And then I'm going to ask Jas again, why? And then why? I want to go 5 whys deep on why you want to do something to make sure that you fully understand why you want to do it. I had one of my clients tell me, well, Mike, I want to be a billionaire. I'm like, well, why? You know, why you want to be a billionaire? Because it sound good? Because LeBron is, or what you know, and then you go deep. When you get to the root of a person understanding why that you're doing something, I think there's a greater sustainability.
Yeah. It's 5 W's. Who am I? What am I? Where am I? Why am I? What was the 5? Who, what, where, when, why? Because if you can answer, who am I right now? What am I right now? Where am I right now? Why am I? And when you can answer that, and that can go across any arena, any vertical of who am I as a mother, who am I as a father, who am I as a partner, who am I as a business owner, and like really answer those, it's the curiosity, right? Because your first layer is like external something. Why do you want to be a billionaire? Because everybody else, or financially it gets me here or gives me freedom. But then as you break it down, you go inward. The why starts to be what inside of you, and it gets to that little bitty seed that you don't even know, like, why? Like, I really love creativity, or I know this thing that I have in me has a voice that can get me to X, Y, and Z. So, Mark, I'm going to ask you that same question. Like, for yourself, how did you kind of stop looking at anything external and see that purpose for yourself?
So for me, it's faith, and you know, I think about it, and it's like, well, you know, for the most part, trying to accomplish something or be something or prove something or, you know, gain love or acceptance or comfort, or, you know, that list goes on. And it's like the thing that gives me resolve and the freedom to kind of be honest with what's going on the inside is understanding that my creator loves me beyond who I am. beyond what I do, beyond my failures, my successes, my insecurities, my fears, my confidence, like beyond all of that. Therefore, when I'm in a room or engaging in community, it allowed me to be real and honest about who I am and my weakness and what I'm afraid of, and really be vulnerable about what's going on in life. And in most cases, you find that in that vulnerability, there's other people that will be like, yeah, like shit, me too, like me too, and then there's this kind of power that comes in real community that says I'm not alone. Like you're not alone. Like I'm here with you. Like we'll figure it out. Like we all don't got to figure it out, but we're working at it to make sure we're okay and have an experience this lifetime that is well.
How do you guys help humanize the experience of entrepreneurship? Because as you're talking, the individual, the athlete in you, the athletes that you work with, it's easy to say, okay, work on this. But when you are a founder and you need to get in front of an investor or you're in a room networking, how do you come as that authentic, vulnerable, true self versus the well-pitched, perfect person who has to be like, hi, my name is Jas Kirk, and this is the business that I'm building, but I'm super nervous. And I'm going to be super honest with you guys. A few weeks ago, I went to a walk, and I just shared, like, this is where I am in my business, and I'm transitioning, and I'm genuinely just here to connect within community and make sure that I'm learning the language in things more so than I don't have anything to pitch you right now. Like, and I don't even want to put myself in that space, but I had to learn how to become really comfortable and honest and feel weird. And the more I leaned into this, I was like, oh, these spaces are actually not scary for me. So how do you guys actually share that or help someone navigate that to be like, if you're not there and ready, you don't have to fake it till you make it?
Yeah, that's you again. You're good.
I'm good. I told you, I've been practicing.
I would say that for me, my handle is Authentic Mike.
Yeah.
So I switched that probably 5 years ago. I think it was. I don't know when it was, but based on previous life experiences where I felt like I had to assimilate.
Yeah.
As an athlete or a Black entrepreneur, I was from Indiana and it wasn't the best environment for a Black entrepreneur before I moved here. Absolutely love Texas. I felt like I had to assimilate.
Yeah.
I ain't got no more assimilation in me.
Yes.
Right. And so if I want to dress like this, or I want to wear my sport coat, or I want to do whatever, I'm going to rock the way I rock. And then when you see what I do or you see what I know, you're going to know my credibility. But I found that there is no power. If you don't have your authenticity is where your power lies.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And being who you are. So for me, if I'm not me, I don't even feel.
You can't. Yeah.
I don't even know how to operate. So I'm like, I'm going to walk into every and any room and be me. I work with millionaires. I'm around billionaires. I walk in a room with them and I respect them just like I respect everybody in this room, but I ain't going to treat them no different. Yeah. I don't need nothing from them. And they get that sense when I walk in the room. I'm going to respect them. If you made $1 billion off of real estate and you're talking about real estate, I'm going to respect you in that vein and that vertical and that sector. But if we start talking about what I do, I'm like, you might be superior to me there, but I'm superior to you here. Yeah. So it's just, I operate like that.
But being in your authentic self let you really lean into the confidence. The work that you've put in helps speak volumes before anything else. So it really is being authentic and true and not putting on a mask or someone else's clothes. You really settled into self. Mark, I would love to hear kind of how you navigate, especially going from the NFL, which you guys are on that field. People are screaming at you, right? You're the face of a brand at all times. You have to be intentional what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're promoting that brand. And then now you have a brand. So how did you navigate that?
Well, I learned a lot from, working with or playing for really great brands, University of Oklahoma, Baltimore Ravens, and St. Louis Rams, now LA Rams. But, the having mentors, coaches, as a young adult, and my parents, my grandmother, rest in peace, that poured into me that God's going to place you in rooms that you're supposed to be in, and if you're denied, that's what God had planned for you. Don't fret, don't panic, don't worry if you're not getting something that you want today. Just because it didn't happen today doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And it really taught me to kind of go through life with my palms up, hands open. And it's like, Lord, if it is, you'll place it. If it ain't, you'll take it.
Yeah.
And I trust that that's good for me. Yeah. And it allows me to kind of have this peace entering a room to just be and enjoy the moment and know that this is a relationship that might be go beyond this meeting, this business deal, whether it happens or not. We may go have a beer together. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I know, God's in that room, and so I can trust what comes out of it.
It sounds like surrender is there. You brought this up before, faith, and I know, Michael, we talk about faith all the time. But it wasn't until for my podcast I interviewed an investor, and he shared faith is business. That's what business is. It's faith. So to hear you speak several times about faith in that aspect of surrender and leaning into your authenticity and your purpose, that's mental wellness. That's the relationship, the connection with the mind. It is this surrender, this curiosity, and all of that. And as they're speaking, I really want you guys to really take those like tidbits home, because when you have dark moments, you have discomfort, you got to lean into something bigger than yourself. The belief is not like you water it with belief. But everything else, it is going to be challenging. It is going to be a stretch, an expansion and all of that. And so I always, when people bring up faith, I'm like, business is faith. Like, that's all it is. So my next question comes to technology. Mark, you specifically have a technology product. And then, Michael, you work with entrepreneur athletes who invest in these kinds of things. What can you guys specifically share about how that is impacting or affecting mental health, wellness, and everything?
It's good and bad. And we're in this age of social media. We got phones with scroll, and attention spans are crazy short. Now the ability for, kids really to kind of just sit and be and ponder and be bored and think about creative idea, what is like not a thing. But in this space is like technology is awesome because it allows, now information to move really fast. It allows us to move really fast and get a lot of stuff done. It brings comfort in some capacities. You got technology in the homes that make it easy to get the kids up in the morning because it does it for you. AI is in, and it kind of in a way allows us to relax and let AI kind of take the helm, so to speak, on hard questions or concepts or business ideas or marketing ideas and so forth. Like it can spit out, 10 different marketing concepts in a matter of seconds, which speeds up, me working with our marketing guy to say, hey, what do we want to focus on for the summertime? We can put 10 concepts together like that and then go to copywriters, and then we can spit out of those 10, they can write 2 variations on each one. Anyway, it speeds up the ability to really get shit done. But at the same time, it makes our mind race, race. And in addition to the anxiety that we have, the fear that we have, the uncertainty that we have in different capacities, whether that's business or that's family, or social networks, and it's like where is the ability to kind of turn off, reset, and then kind of go back in the rat race, the matrix, if you will.
Yeah.
But tech is great, and it is awful at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I think it's good and bad. I'm a firm believer that our ego at a different state. One of my favorite authors, Eckhart Tolle, really does a really good job of breaking down the ego. And when he talks about the ego, it says the ego lives on the past and the future, right? So the ego is the enemy to the present moment. Really, when you look at life, all we have is the present moment. The past doesn't even exist. The future doesn't exist. But technology robs us of the present moment. I'm with my girls the other day, and we're walking in a store, and I'm like, can you just be present for a moment? Can you be here? Can you be there? Can we? Man. And it's like, I feel like people are so consumed by other people's lives that they rob their own reality, right? It's like you're just so busy scrolling on other people's stuff and looking, and it's just like you can't have no stillness, no presence, no peace. So I think the technology is absolutely amazing for business and for scale, but on a personal level, I think it's kind of a really big distraction.
Yeah. And so I specifically asked that, of course, plug and play at this vertical is sports and tech. So not everybody here is sports. Others are tech. But when you think about how they even shared, like it's great, it's good and bad. So if you are someone who is super tech focused, you have to be super intentional in taking a step back because things are moving at warp speed. But then the reality of your situation is you are not present because you are so future focused. And like Mark shared, like it's going to have an output of 10 different things. And my question earlier, how is your mental system? How profitable is your mental system? Your mental system cannot put out 10 outputs when you put nothing in it. But your text, your AI or whatever can put out all of that because you put something in it. So you're fueling that. You have to remember to fuel the self and take a step back and be really intentional of how do you come back present? Because tech founders do find a lot of burnout because they're scaling it extremely fast. And you're not meant to sustain that pace. And that was the other thing I thought about is like when it comes to pace, how do you guys address that with yourselves, with your teams, with your entrepreneurs? I am a runner. And the one thing I say, 1 mile is the same distance for every single person. If you take 12 minutes, 6 minutes, 2 minutes, 24 minutes, you reach the same goal, but your pace is your pace. If you can't run 100 miles a minute and think you're going to sustain that for a year, 2 years, 4 years, 10 years. So find your pace. And as a marathon runner, you got your marathon pace, you got your half marathon pace, you got your 5K pace. So what within business, what is that pace? And how do you actually share and teach and impact with like, bro, that person did that, but you got a different pace.
No, that's heavy. So I kind of learned my pace. I had some health issues like 2 years ago, and I remember talking to one of my doctors, and she was like, because like I think my mental capacity is really, really strong from a standpoint of like the amount of pressure or things I can deal with and whatever. And when you're an athlete and you go through, like I was a running back, so when you go through that stuff and it's like, the way we're trained, it's like, yo, I remember back in the day when I used to be married and I was like, people, anxiety, what is anxiety? Like, get over it. Like, I don't even believe in anxiety. And then when I was with the doctor, she was just like, yo, you you dealing with stress and you don't even know you dealing with it. My mind was one thing, but my body, the impact of my body was something different. And so when I had to come to that realization, I had read this amazing book. I'm a big reader, and this book talking about how to vibrate higher daily. And it was talking about how like life is all about energy, right? Like we got energy and a frequency up here. And then, you know, people every day, we're either operating on a low frequency or a high frequency. Most people live life operating on low frequency.
Yeah.
And you get accustomed to operating at that frequency. And the only way that we can improve our frequency is to identify what our high vibration activities are. One of my high vibration activities for me is smoking cigars.
Okay.
You know, another one is walking. Another one is, you know, listening to music, whatever it may be. I know I have it on my phone. I got a list weekly and monthly. If I don't tap into these high vibration activities, I know I'm operating on a low frequency. And so when I feel myself operating on a low frequency, I know exactly what to go do.
Yeah.
So I go do those activities. And so I think that's a way of how I handle the pressures of my entrepreneurship. If I'm like, it's hitting me, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm vibrating low. Let me go do this. My vibration comes back up. If my vibration's high, I give the greatest output in what I'm doing. But if my vibration is low, my creativity's low, my patience is low, you know, my tolerance is low, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Good. I'd say, you know, and well, within the company with the guys is like our deal is faith, family, focus, finish, and the verse is, you know, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I'm like, you say the high vibration activity is like how do I love myself well, and how does that flow downstream with anybody that's in the circle and I'm working with is like, all right, you know, I want to make sure that they have the ability to, you know, do what makes them feel good. Cause I know when it's time for output, you're going to get more. It's going to be better. You're going to be happier. You're going to enjoy what you're doing. And so, you know, for me it's like, I love playing golf. I love playing basketball. I game sometime. I grew up a gamer. It takes me back to my childhood and go in those places, and it just revives me. And then, you know, with the family, with my wife and my kids, we have a great time. Like I have fun with that. Work is like, I get to do that.
Yeah.
It's a, you know, I got to play football. That was, you know, by God's grace. And so work is similar in that regard. Is like, I get to do that to provide for my family, so we can have these moments of connection and doing life together. And it goes with my friends. So we have these moments of connection and doing life together. When I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to regret having those moments with my family and my kids and my friends ever. I may, you know, not necessarily hit a KPI. I may not, you know, build the business to whatever, or I may not, you know, do a number of things. But with those relationships, I'm not going to miss on that. And that, you know, for the most part allows me to feel grounded and go into the world, the big, mean world, with the fear, with the uncertainty, and kind of know that they have me. You know?
Yeah, I feel like as you guys both shared that, Michael, when you brought up your 5 whys, it really does you get clear on your whys, so you know that like my time with my family is important, or I get to go to work, so I'm going to make this the work I do is enjoyable, and I get to do that, and I impact every individual on my team we interact with, and there's this lightness when you talk about your vibration, like you're operating from a high vibration versus a burned out, low, stressed out. When people meet you, they kind of have that like, I don't know if I like that guy. He's kind of, but when you know someone's operating at a higher frequency, you're like, man, it's something about him. Didn't say much, but he had energy, right? But every activity that you guys shared was play or presence. if it's cigars, if it's going on a walk, if you're with your family, if it's gaming, if it's basketball or golf, like it is really important to find things that are not monetized. I say this to people all the time. Have you ever said to someone like, what are you currently doing that's super exciting? Or what do you do for fun? And the one thing that I hear people, they're like, I have no idea. And I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. In summers, I take salsa dancing and I'm terrible at it. But I learn it's the one activity that I get to turn off and I get to be bad at it, and nobody's like grading me or telling me what to do. Nobody pays me to do it. I laugh, I have fun. And it's like we really have to get back to those spaces, because if every single thing you have to have data and this going on, or like you said, KPIs or monetizing, then everything, there's nothing in life that you turned off. Michael knows every single day I go to Pilates. It is 50 minutes of someone else teaching me, and I get to turn my brain completely off, because you'll fall off the reformer if you've never taken Pilates. It's not going to be safe. But you have to, like, I'm very intentional in baking in things for my physical, mental, spiritual health, because I had to learn, like, this can't sustain you. And so when we talked about pace, it was really important to talk about the presence and play when it came to pace. As I'm running some days, when I'm like, I have a long run, like yesterday I did 8 miles, y'all. And when I'm on, like, before I turn around, I'm always like, we're thinking foundational, like form, all of that, you're breathing. But the moment I turn around, I always say, now it's time to just have fun. You've seen the course, you've seen what it looks like, you're turning around. And the smile that, if you see somebody running, and I always have this smile, and you'll be like, how many miles is she at? You would think I did like 2. And I'm like, oh, I did 6. I'm at 7. Because I'm like, you actually enjoy running. There are people who hate running. I love that you don't love running, but I love it. And so I have this gleam and joy, but these are things that I'm very intentional in what I bake in my day. And so I thank you guys for that, because when it came to pace, you guys didn't hear them talk about speed at all. And I really want you guys to hear that, like, when you think about pace and all of that, come outside of the business. Pace with the business is different. Pace for yourself, you got to stay present. And so as we're beginning to wrap up, I'm going to ask Michael and Mark, is there anything you guys want to share with people here today as a takeaway? As far as mental wellness, mental health, entrepreneurship, sustainability.
I'd say one of the things that is, I guess, very foundational for me just engaging with life and loving the Lord is that I've come to terms where it was like, you know, in life I don't really deserve anything. I've been forgiven much, and I've been forgiven by my Heavenly Father. And at that point, for me, that's where the peace kind of flows in. And I feel like when people, connect or talk or speak or whatever, they kind of feel that ease of life, ease of being. But that is the peace that comes from me understanding that I've been forgiven, and given grace that allows me to then love and give grace to others. Myself first, my family, and then everybody else.
Yeah, I would say there's 2 things I would share that are both written on my whiteboard in my office that are somewhat compasses for me on just living life now. One is business and one is more spiritual. On the spiritual side, I was reading and I came across this term I had never came across before, and it was really crazy because one of my friends, I had talked to him maybe like 2 weeks before I was reading the book, and he had said it, and I was like, "Oh, I heard that, but this dude is really deep, really spiritual." So yeah, I heard it, and I was like, okay. And then when I was reading, I saw it in the book,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh wow. But the allness of God, right? I've never heard someone say allness of God. He had referenced it as allness of God, and the allness of God is defined as health, wealth, and harmony.
Mm.
And I had always heard about this whole health and wealth thing. I hear it all the time. Health and wealth, health and wealth. But I'd never had heard this harmony element. And so it's health, wealth, and harmony. And so when you think about harmony, right? And I'm a fan of jazz, and you think of a nice jazz trio. You ever seen someone playing a trio and they got horrible harmony? It don't sound too good, right? But you sign a group that really, you listen to the bass, you listen to the trumpet, whatever, and there's beautiful harmony. I don't have much of a tolerance to work with people or experience life that lacks harmony, right? I'm trying to make good music. So I kind of look at that from a standpoint of health, wealth, and harmony on the allness of God. And then the other thing is from a business perspective, when we look at business, I think there's 3 key elements. We call them the 3 R's. It's relationships, reputation, and results. You know, if I got solid relationships, I got a good reputation, and I get good results, my business is going to be pretty good. But too many times people are only care about the results.
Yeah.
And they don't value the relationships, and they don't value a good reputation on what people have to say about you. So I would leave with those things.
I love all of those. Man, they're dropping gems. So right now I'm going to open the floor. If anyone has questions, you can raise your hand. Okay. Let me get up and I'll give you. He's been here this whole time. So.
Well, thank you so much for being out here, and thank you, gentlemen, for giving me the information that you gave, and for you, Mark, right? So my question to you, when you were telling me the story about you had the injury, and I cannot imagine something like that happening to me, and I could only imagine what you went through. But I started wondering, was it God that got you to go to the people to help you, the people that helped you, or was it the people got you to God? Which way was it?
I think, layers, just a part of the kind of fear that was all in that was in that space. The injury happened as I got signed to Baltimore. My first contract was like a 5-year contract. There was a holdout. I didn't sign a second contract in the NFL at all. So I had one contract, and right before the injury, we were negotiating a new contract, $50 million contract. Then I got injured. And then I go into the offseason, and they signed me back on a prove-it deal. But in that place, to me, it's God uses people, places, things to manage circumstances and get you to where he would have you go. And so it was like my brothers that had already been in my life that essentially was able to, hey, you should come here and check this. Come down to Miami, do some rehab, stay a couple weeks. I ended up staying for 2 years because Miami was awesome. Connected with, who was my big brother now, was a pastor at a church there where I ultimately learned the gospel. And so that came out of me not knowing what my future held at all. I was pretty sure I would return to the NFL, and it didn't happen. And I really wanted to. And I never signed a second contract. And so life had to change drastically instantly. I spent a lot of money while I was in the first contract. And so I had a divorce, in that space. And so it was like, man, I'm still late 20s at this point. I'm like, I don't know what life looks like. I don't even know how to speak the language of outside of football. And so, it was pretty grim. And, having guys just kind of lean. there was a point in which I would, I would go to the church, and I had not shaved. Like I was just kind of like, fuck it. But I would go to church, like, and they would ask, a couple of times they asked, it was like, "Are you here for the meals?" And I was like, "Here for the meals." They feed the homeless like on certain Sundays, and I was like, "No, I'm just going to church." But I was that's where I was to give you a picture of like I was over it or didn't matter, so to speak. Just the low of life is completely not what I thought it would be. That's where I was at, and to me, God uses people to help support, help build, help encourage you along the way.
I love that. I had to jump in there because when you talk about God uses people and you asked if it's like God first and then the people, or the people then God, it's like simultaneously all of it. You didn't know you said a help prayer. But also I say when God sends abundance, he sends people, opportunities, and choices. And the first thing being people. And then you have an opportunity and a choice. So there's always that he's going to send the people, give you a little wink. Does anybody else have questions? Oh, can you pass the...
Mark and Mike, thank you guys so much. Lots of great takeaways and gems. I love kind of the mental models that you guys shared, and I appreciate your vulnerability as well. Jas, you have a gift. I think we all see it on display, and I think you should keep doing this because you are impeccable. And it's great to see that as your friend. Kudos to you, Jas. So, Mike, I was thinking about the high vibration activities that you were mentioning and how you incorporate those weekly, monthly. But do you have like a system for that? Do you have, okay, I get my cigars on Tuesdays and I hang out with my kiddos on Wednesdays? Like, is it built into the way that you live your life, or is it kind of like when you need it, that's when you tap into it? And of course, Mark, if you have any words on that, would love to hear.
Yeah, so I actually have a list of about 10 or 12 high vibration activities identified on my phone or on my iPad that I know what they are. And then when I look at my calendar for the month, I try to make sure I'm implementing those. So it's kind of like a reference that I'll go back to and I'll look at it. And then the other thing is just my awareness of knowing what those activities are and how those activities make me feel. If I find myself getting the E, or I'm on a half tank or whatever, I know what to go do in those activities to bring me back, to what it is. So I'll design it. I'm not very rigid with it, but I have an awareness of it. So I'll feel that, I'll set everything up like that. And then I'm off, I'll go back to that, what I need to do. Yeah.
That's really good. And so in my mind, I was like, man, my HVAs, my high vibe acts. No, I'm calling my HVAs. But similar, I'd say basketballs is like Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11 to noon or whatever. But I won't always do it. And then I have 4 kids at home, and their schedules are all over the place. We got sports and stuff. And then my wife, there's her schedule, and then how we work together. And so there's so much kind of going on that the schedule is not in stone. Like, it's definitely not rigid with it. It's just, if there comes a time where it's like, yeah, I know I'm on E, then I know I'm going to go get that in. But ultimately it's just kind of in there. Just, I know it's in there somewhere. It'll happen.
I think the thing for me that I think awareness is a really big thing for me. I think I'm a highly aware person, and I think that starts with being self-aware, right? And so I believe our first language and our best language is our energy, right? I hate it when someone can tell me everything I want to hear, or act like you like me, but I can feel that you don't. You know what I mean? So there's the energy is everything. So I'm so tuned into it that I know when my energy, I can feel it. I know when it's low, then You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to just keep it at that level.
To piggyback off of what you guys are sharing, though, that I really want to hit on is one, you do have to balance priorities with these things because you have kids, you have everything going on, that it sounds like there is a larger system at play, but it's not so rigid that you're like, every Monday at this time, if I don't do this, where you leave room. And Mark, earlier you talked about having that palm open where there's that energy can come in for you to have that self-awareness, like, I need this. I'm running on E. And I think it's really important to remember that as we're building this mental system, this mental health, mental wellness, you have to leave room, because this is a system that it doesn't go exactly as it's planned, and it's not supposed to, but there's the foundational aspect at the bottom that you can lean on. So when he knows I have these 12 things that I need to input or can input to get an outcome. But if I put none of these 12 things into this month, I already know what my outcome will be. And so it's easy to say like the system, but you really want to step back from applying your business mind to just the freedom of the mind.
Yeah, and I want to say this, as you say that, when she asked about the system, so there's a yes and a no to it. And as we talk about it, it makes me think about it. I'm gonna go back and refine my list today, actually. So when you think about, remember when I said about the allness of God and I talked about health, wealth, and harmony, right? So what I'm going to do when I go back and refine it later today on my own time is I'm going to look at those 12 to 13 activities, and I'm going to look at how many of them are applied to health, wealth, and harmony, right? So if I have a whole bunch of activities, but none of them are geared towards my health, then obviously I'm gonna be lacking in that area. So I think in that, from a balance perspective,
I call them my 4 interior powers. And so if you have never read the book, The 5 a.m. Club, I highly recommend it to everyone. But they talk about in the book your 4 interior powers, which is your mindset, your heart set, your health set, your soul set. And so if you break up every week, every Sunday or Monday, I kind of sit with how intentional can I be with my mindset, my heart set, my health set, my soul set. And each one is so different. And each week I look at the previous week and I'm kind of like, what was a theme that week? Did we lack faith? How can I implement that in my mindset this week? My heart set, how I love on people in my relationships. My soul set with my meditations and my belief systems. My health set, how did I do the workouts, but was I present? So I highly encourage, like, you have your health, wealth, and harmony. There's that overarching theme that you feed into those. And so for me, they're 4 interior powers, and all of those fuel this version of Jas that you see. Do we have any other questions? Okay. Where's the mic?
Hello, I'm Calla Robinson, and I had to write this question down because I'm not really good at
No, you're good.
off the dome. But on the topic of mental wellness in student athletes, I've noticed there are a lot of good character development traits that come from being athletes. But I've noticed in myself, my brother, and my friends and others that we fall into an environment where it becomes our identity and we struggle to know who we are without. And so I was like wondering from you guys' point of view, how can we contribute to helping kids and our peers with their identity outside of sports, more specifically high school and college athletes? And what are initiatives that you know may already be in place?
That's a good one. And I like to say, I use this term sometimes, but I feel like I'm pregnant on that subject matter based on what I'm dealing with some of my guys. I can't say personal stuff, but yeah, I'm currently going through a process of bringing some mental health experts onto my office, because I'm not one and I'm acting as one. And so it's just, it gets in the way. So I would say this. I've worked with athletes even before I've ran my family office at Rise. I owned a training company for 15 years where I developed athletes physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I sold it to a private equity firm. And I think most athletes confuse their function for their purpose. So playing sports is a function. It's an activity. It's not your purpose. And so they consume and believe that this is my purpose. And then what also happens with athletes is that athletics is like a dopamine hit, right? It's a feeling. It's like Jay-Z said, fame is a drug, right? So you kind of get into that point where it just makes you feel a certain way. It makes you feel its way. And so that's what it is. And you got to understand, I always tell people there's a difference between your passion and your purpose. Your passion is what you personally love to do. Your purpose is what God's called you to do for other people, right? That's fundamentally the difference. And so I think when you find that and you commit to that and you serve that, it makes it pretty difficult to do that. I spoke on a panel, I don't know what it was, 2 or 3 months ago in Houston with Justin Fields, quarterback for the Jets. And when I was in the green room with Justin, I could tell this brother knows his purpose. Again, energy. It was the energy. It was the confidence. He's not moved by the fame. He's not moved by the money. He's not moved. He was obviously raised well. And it's that balance. So that's what I would say is like most of athletes struggle with when you spend your whole life, and I think parents are an issue with this because I used to own a training organization. Okay. Parents and Nuri Muhammad talked about this the other day. If you watch Nuri Muhammad and Cam Newton was on a podcast the other day on Freaky Fridays or whatever it's called. And Nuri's, under Farrakhan. He's dope. He's probably going to take over the nation or lead as a leader. He talked about how he was basically saying that typically he was saying that white people usually put their kids into sports to develop leadership skills that they can take and apply to their law firm, to whatever they do. And black people put their kids into sports as the end all to get to the sport. You know what I mean? And so there's a fundamental issue with that. I work with brothers to where once you've achieved the wealth and we get to the wealth, I'm trying to help you build wealth. I'm trying to help you sustain it, and I'm trying to help you scale it. But if you're consumed about creating it and just having it, and we have and your whole life you ain't been trained what to do with it, it's a major issue.
That was awesome. That was awesome. And I concur. Like, I'm guilty of switching the two, putting the passion in the purpose place and the purpose place and purpose in the passion place. But yeah, I think it is necessary sometimes to have those passions that are in the purpose place to essentially be, where you fall on your face. I think sometimes when you lose the thing that you felt like this is who you are, you start to actually find yourself. And so sometimes people have to go through this journey and experience loss to realize things because, being in that circle, you're so fluffed up. You're so you got the money, the fame. You're insulated by all this stuff that you're not. You almost don't have the ability to really look inside because everything is so easy, so to speak. But yeah, I think, and then for young, people, I think having somebody that, and the hope is that somebody's there to kind of redirect and help young people see, like, hey, find your passion, but you got to know your purpose goes beyond whatever you do, like in life ever. No matter what you do, you can become whatever you want to become, but just know that that's not the end all be all. We're not here to just accumulate, to succeed and do all that stuff. We're here to love people and love people well. That's why we're here.
To jump in there, when you talked about journey, I think it's really important for people to define what passion is. I always bring up curiosity because you'll think it's the thing I'm doing or the thing I've picked up. And you need to start defining these and going back to Mike's why. Why am I passionate about this? Is this my purpose? If I go 5 levels deep, how do I know? And it's getting curious, but on your journey, it's a journey of unfoldment. When we're young, we're like, this is who I am. No, this is who you are at this age, this time, right now. And there's going to come a time where you are unfolding again and you're meeting yourself again. And there's grace in there and time. And through social media and technology, which we talked about this earlier, when systems have outcomes that are so fast, it makes you think you need to be that fast in your growth, your evolution, and your evolving, and you don't. You're not supposed to be as fast as AI. So if you say tomorrow you want to go into marketing versus being whatever sport you play, how long did it take you to master? Can you put your 10,000 hours into that? Everything now is like, tomorrow I'm a CEO. It takes so much time, dedication to be someone who said, I established a business versus someone who is actually leading and executing a company. So it's really about gifting yourself time and grace.
I wanted to say something. You sparked this. And I wanted to say, this was one of the things that was on my mind. I was like, yo, I got to say this when I come to it, and I completely forgot. So I appreciate you. Is when you go into entrepreneurship, in the deeper you go into it, remember when I was referencing earlier the book of Eli and Walking West, and either walking on your own or walking with a group of people? In my experience and what I've seen, entrepreneurship can get extremely lonely. Mm-hmm. And the higher you go, and the further you go on that rabbit trail, and the more you learn, and the more awareness you have, and the more awakening, it gets lonelier and lonelier and lonelier. And it can be very challenging when your day ones or your family members or the people that you love that are within your close proximity are not on the same journey or on the same path. Oof. You would think you speaking a foreign language. And so I commend Plug and Play. I didn't really recognize it, and I love it because you have to have a community of like-minded people that I can sit down next to a brother like him or a sister like her and have a conversation and not feel crazy. And be like, oh, you read those books too? Oh, you do that too? I thought I was crazy. Because you can go to that level. And the more, as he referenced it, and I love it, and you know, whether people recognize it or not, a little drop he did earlier when he referenced the Matrix, right? That's a whole nother thing, is when you're not operating in that Matrix and you have an awareness and you're out of it, most people are not. And so, you know, again, it just gets lonely, and you got to kind of know that, and you got to find community somewhere that is like-mindedness, you know.
Because you'll isolate. You'll get lonely, and then you'll isolate, and that's when the mental health comes into play. Like, talk about it. The purpose of this entire conversation is to hold space and just talk about it. No one has to share anything they're dealing with. We know because we've experienced it. We're experiencing it. So we'll take one final question if anybody has one. No, you guys are good. Well, I really want to thank Mark Clayton, Michael Leto for
Thank
you
you.
both being here today.
Thank you.
I want to give a huge shout out to Plug and Play for powering this We Rise to Our Systems panel discussion. I also want to give a shout out to the EDC of Frisco for supporting this as well. And then also Hello Studios. As I earlier shared, I do have a podcast called Comfortable Conversations where we talk about discomfort. So if you want to look it up, it's Comfortable Conversations with Jas Kirk. But my podcasting studio, Hello Studios, has gracefully sponsored this event so that you guys get to take home this conversation. So if you were taking notes or anything, guess what? It's coming to your inbox shortly, and you can also share it with someone else. But I also share as entrepreneurs, podcasting is an amazing opportunity to tell your story. Even as you build businesses and go along the journey, you learn how to share your story along the way, meet other individuals. So it is a powerful marketing tool. I know we see podcasts are popping up all over, but your voice matters. And so when you use it, you are igniting your purpose, your passions, and things like that. So definitely check out Hello Studios. They're here. Please connect with them for your business. And thank you all for coming today. This was an honor to hold this conversation, and we will have another one in October. So stay connected. Thanks, guys.